the day when I
Blues America. America. Now that's some home cooking.
You're listening to Blues America. I'm your host, Drew Verbis, and I'm speaking with the author of the book, The Seduction of Mary Wells, Steve Bergsma. Steve, tell me about your book.
So, The Seduction of Mary Wells actually began over 20 years ago. I was introduced to Mary in the last years of her life, you might say. She had already had her bout with larynx cancer. She had her larynx removed. This was probably around 1989, 1990. And she had this idea that she wanted to do an autobiography. And I'm not sure, I believe it was Joyce Moore, wife of Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Sam Moore of Sam and Dave fame, introduced me to Mary. And then I would travel out to Los Angeles to interview her quite a bit for the prospective autobiography. But she got sick, and then she died and never finished the project. Then, somewhere around 3 years ago, I get a phone call out of the blue from a writer named Peter Benjaminson, who was writing a biography of Mary Wells. And he said, in the course of this, he heard that I had been working with her 20 years before, and if I had anything that would help him. And I had those tapes from all those years, and I gave him all the tapes, and I thought he wrote a pretty good biography. The Tumultuous Life of Mary Wells, I think it was called. So he wrote this great biography, but about a year after it was printed, he goes, "Do you have anything else from Mary?" And I didn't think I did, and I went back and looked, and I found some more stuff I had from Mary Wells, including a tape that I never gave to Peter. And there was other information, and I thought, you know what? With this other information, I think I'll write my own book. And The Death of Johnny Ace, the prior book, was a work of historical fiction. I decided to look at the life of Johnny Ace, but nobody remembered who Johnny Ace was. And I thought, well, if I do it as a work of fiction based on the real events of his life, the readership would be bigger than if I just did a Johnny Ace biography. Because, Johnny Ace died in 1954, and who would remember him? So that book came out, and that book did well. So I said, well, with The Seduction of Mary Wells, I'll do the same thing. I'll make it a work of historical fiction. But Peter Benjaminson actually wrote a pretty thorough biography. But my approach is different. This is not about the music so much as it is about her relationships with the men in her life. And she had relationships with a number of famous men, Wilson Pickett, Jackie Wilson, yes, and then infamously two of the Womack brothers. She married one and then left him for another brother. And people don't remember their Womack brothers, but there were five of them. They were a rhythm and blues singer. They originally came out as the Valentinos. And the most famous of the Womack brothers is Bobby Womack, who also, I think, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He wrote the Rolling Stones' first big hit, Bobby Womack. And then he had a number of big hits on his own. The one I like the most is Across 110th Street. But anyway, Mary Wells married one and then lived the last probably 12, 15 years of her life with the other brother. So she had sort of strange relationships, and one of those strange relationships was with Berry Gordy, which I felt nobody had explored for a number of different reasons. One of them which was, in her view, this was an improper relationship, and nobody wants to get sued by Berry Gordy.
me about the title. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Now, the title, The Seduction of Mary Wells, is some of this based on the relationships she had in her own personal life, or the relationships in the music business, or kind of all of the above?
It's really all the above. So it's the relationships she had, and she had many of them. I just focused on a few just to sort of highlight her life. And it begins with Mary Wells and Wilson Pickett in the clinch. That's the way the book begins, and then progresses from there, and finally ends with really... When I was interviewing Mary Wells back then, we actually wrote 3 chapters of what was going to be the autobiography, which I didn't think I had anymore, but when I relooked, I found them. And then I made those 3 chapters sort of the final chapters of the book. So it's, as I say, it's work of historical fiction, but a lot of it is really real life. And in those last 3 chapters, she finally gets down to discussing her relationship with Berry Gordy. And this is a key thing, because that was the reason why she wanted to write this autobiography in the first place, because as she got older, what happened between her and Berry weighed on her, and she felt bad about it, and she felt bad about herself because of it. So that was one of the reasons why she wanted to write this autobiography, and it's one of the things she wanted to make public. Because I imagine people at Motown might have realized all this, but it's never really been discussed, and I've never seen it in any of the books.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I need mine. That's what I want. That's what I want. I need some mine.
Tell me about some of, what are some of the bombshells that are revealed in the book, and you don't have to give them all to us, but maybe 1 or 2.
The most important bombshell... Let me go back. There has been a documentary on Mary Wells. It was on... there's a couple of African-American TV stations. One is BET, and the other one, like V1 or something like that. And they have a series called Unsung. And they did a documentary of Mary Wells. And they actually took one of my tapes, played it, and you just see the tape recorder, and you hear Mary being interviewed, which is me. And she talks about being abused by Curtis Womack. So that came out in that tape, which was one of my interviews. The thing that never came out, which was never discussed in the documentary and never discussed in Peter Benjamin's book, because Berry Gordy's very litigious and everybody's afraid of being sued, is that Mary, the thing that Mary wanted to get off her chest, the thing that bothered her the most towards the end of her life, is that she went into Motown as a 15-year-old. And Berry took one look at her and said, wow, this chick is gorgeous. And for Mary to get that recording, she really had to do a devil's bargain. So this is what Mary told me, but she pretty much had to be on that casting couch to get that first recording done at Motown. So that was Mary's story. That's what she wanted to tell folks. Even after the surgery, where they removed her larynx for cancer, and her voice was reduced to a raspy whisper, you might say. And I interviewed her, and where you are sitting right now was where Mary was sitting, and that was the last interview she ever did.
Every time I see Barry looking at me in a romantic way, I would always remind him that I was 16, that I was a minor, and what he did to me was absolutely wrong, and he shouldn't think nothing at all. And for what he did, probably was just so young, I didn't know what he was doing. But I was a little disgusted with it because I thought he was too old for me, and I thought he took advantage of me at 15. And I was young. I mean, I never got over what we had did.
More about Mary Wells coming up with author Steve Bergsman when Blues America returns. But first, it's the Blues Break, big number 1, with some contemporary blues. With a new release from Zach Harmon, Stand Your Ground.
The Blues Break. Blues Break. Big number 1. Number 1.
You shoot me down. You shoot me down for no reason, just to stand your ground. I got no chip on my shoulder. I got no axe to grind, but still you got this fear that's all in your mind. Tell me why you shoot me down. You shoot me down for no reason, just to stand